The pine cone is a symbol that transcends both cultural and temporal boundaries. It appears in various contexts around the world, from ancient Egyptian temples to Hindu traditions and the Vatican. This small, seemingly ordinary natural object carries a deep spiritual meaning that touches on fundamental human concerns, knowledge, enlightenment, and the connection to the divine. When we analyze how the pine cone is represented in various civilizations, we realize it symbolizes a point of convergence among them, something that transcends cultures and religions. In Hindu tradition, for example, the pine cone is connected to the pineal gland, which in turn is associated with the third eye. This third eye, known as the Ajna chakra, is considered the center of our intuition and spiritual wisdom. Through the activation of this eye, it is believed that a person can reach elevated levels of consciousness and perception, seeing truths beyond the physical world. This concept is widely accepted in various esoteric traditions, where the pineal gland is viewed as a portal to the spiritual, something modern science is also beginning to explore. In relation to neuroplasticity and perception, the ancient Egyptians also used the symbolism of the pine cone in their depictions. It can be seen in sculptures and carvings, often associated with deities connected to knowledge. The god Osiris, for instance, is commonly depicted holding a pine cone. This association suggests that the Egyptians understood the pine cone as a spiritual tool for elevation, connecting humans to a higher plane of existence beyond physical life. This symbol, among others, points to the search for deeper knowledge and enlightenment. In the Western context, the Vatican offers one of the most prominent examples of the use of the pine cone in a religious setting. At the heart of the Vatican, there is a gigantic sculpture of a pine cone, one of the largest in the world. This artifact, brought from ancient Rome, has been preserved as a central symbol at the core of Christianity. The fact that the Vatican houses this symbol in its main square indicates the importance of the pine cone as an icon of wisdom and enlightenment, a bridge between the spiritual and material worlds. Another interesting point is the use of the pine cone on the Pope's staff. It is no coincidence that the highest figure in the Catholic Church carries this symbol in his ceremonies. The pine cone, placed at the top of the papal staff, suggests that the Church, in some way, retains ancient knowledge about the pineal gland, which would be the center of spiritual enlightenment in humans. This leads us to question how much religious institutions understand the deeper meaning of symbols that are often seen as merely decorative by the general public. Finally, we can observe that the pine cone, in its various appearances, is rarely an isolated symbol. It is almost always linked to figures of power, such as deities or religious leaders. This reinforces the idea that the pine cone represents something elevated and transcendent, symbolizing knowledge reserved for those who hold positions of spiritual authority. Understanding the significance of the pine cone helps us realize that even in ancient times, there was a relentless search for greater answers, and this search was deeply connected to spirituality and inner wisdom. The mysterious bag is a recurring symbol found in various ancient civilizations, appearing in artifacts and murals from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even Central America. At first glance, its representation may seem enigmatic, but upon deeper analysis, it reveals a symbolic link to the knowledge necessary to shape and sustain civilizations. In many cultures, the bag seems to carry not just physical objects, but something far more important: wisdom, tools, and techniques that allowed the evolution of advanced societies. In Mesopotamia, the bag is frequently depicted in the hands of the Anunnaki, gods who, according to ancient texts, brought knowledge to humanity. These gods are shown holding the bag as if offering something precious. In the depictions of this culture, the bag is always positioned to suggest its value, as if it contains the keys to the development of civilization. If we view this bag not as a simple artifact, but as a symbol, it can represent the intellectual and spiritual tools that the gods gave to humans. This interpretation is reinforced by its presence in other cultures. In Mexico, among the Olmecs, we see similar representations of divine figures holding a bag. This cannot be a mere coincidence, especially considering that these civilizations were geographically distant and without contact with each other. The repetition of the symbol suggests that the bag could represent something universal, a connection to deep knowledge shared between different cultures that shaped the ancient world. Theories suggest that the bag may symbolize mastery over advanced technologies, or even sacred knowledge passed down to the leaders of these civilizations. This idea leads us to reflect on what might be contained in these bags. It is not just about something physical, but a larger symbolism, the power to transform the environment around them. In a way, the bag would be equivalent to manuals for the creation of civilizations, the knowledge necessary to build monuments, organize societies, and establish norms and laws. Besides the practical aspect, the bag can also be seen as a symbol of balance. Just as the pine cone represents spiritual wisdom and enlightenment, the bag would be the vessel of material resources and tools to realize that wisdom in the physical world. In various depictions, such as those of the Anunnaki and the Olmecs, the bag is carried in one hand, while the other holds something symbolic, like the pine cone. This duality suggests that both spiritual and material knowledge were necessary for the creation of prosperous societies. Finally, the symbol of the bag makes us reflect on lost civilizations and their hidden knowledge. What exactly did these peoples know, which was passed down through these symbols from generation to generation? And more importantly, what have we lost over the course of history that has disconnected us from this ancestral knowledge? The bag, with its mystery still not fully unraveled, remains a powerful symbol that can help us understand more about the societies that preceded ours and their views on the creation of civilizations. It is intriguing to think that ancient civilizations, spread across different continents and without apparent contact, share similar symbols, such as the pine cone and the bag. When we observe these representations in cultures as distant as Mesopotamia, Egypt, Central America, and even Asia, we are led to question how it is possible for these same symbols to appear repeatedly. The presence of these symbols in different parts of the world suggests a deeper connection between these ancient societies, perhaps a connection that transcends the physical or chronological limits established by conventional history. In ancient Mesopotamia, we find images of divine figures holding a pine cone and a bag. These same figures appear in Olmec art, with Kukulkan holding the sacred bag. How could these cultures have shared this symbol if, according to the traditional historical narrative, they were completely isolated from each other? These common representations indicate that there may have been cultural exchange, or perhaps even universal knowledge shared among them, whether in a physical, spiritual, or symbolic way. This question leads to speculations about the origin of these civilizations' knowledge. Could these common symbols point to an origin or external influence, perhaps from a mother civilization that spread its knowledge around the world? A hypothesis widely discussed among alternative scholars is that these civilizations were influenced by a group of advanced beings who brought with them technological and spiritual knowledge, and that these symbols, like the pine cone and the bag, served as a way to transmit and preserve these teachings. Another fascinating point is that these civilizations, separated by oceans and thousands of years, constructed megalithic monuments with similar technical and symbolic precision. The pyramids of Egypt, the temples of Mesoamerica, and archaeological sites in Turkey, such as Göbekli Tepe, are examples of impressive constructions that, despite their geographical differences, share symbolic and structural characteristics. The presence of these symbols in their murals and sculptures reinforces the idea that there was a belief system or a universal symbolic code permeating these cultures. These symbols also served as tools of power, guiding not only the elites, but also the masses who followed their leadership. Knowledge about the use of these symbols was likely restricted to priestly classes and rulers, who understood the spiritual and philosophical depth contained in each of them. The general public, although exposed to these symbols, may not have fully grasped what they represented, seeing them more as emblems of power and authority. As we explore the connection between these ancient civilizations through their common symbols, we realize that much more is to be discovered about our past. These symbols challenge the narrative that civilizations developed in isolation and suggest that there was an exchange of knowledge and perhaps an influence that went beyond the geographical and technological limitations we know. They could be the clues that help us understand a broader network of ancient civilizations connected by something we still do not fully comprehend. The ancient murals and sculptures of Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and American civilizations often depicted figures with serpent or eagle heads. At first glance, these representations may seem literal, as if these cultures believed that their gods or divine figures truly possessed these physical characteristics. However, when we delve deeper into the symbolism of these images, we realize that they represent mental and spiritual states, not just physical forms. The serpent, for example, is an ancient symbol of wisdom, renewal, and spiritual power. In Egypt, the Uraeus serpent was worn on the pharaoh's crowns, symbolizing protection and spiritual illumination. In Mesopotamia, Representations of the Anunnaki, with serpent heads, suggest that they were seen as beings with a superior understanding of the cosmos and the nature of reality. The serpent is not a figure of fear, but an archetype of deep knowledge and the capacity for regeneration, like the cycle of life and death. On the other hand, the eagle has always been associated with power and clear vision. In various cultures, from Rome to Mesopotamia, the eagle is depicted as a symbol of military power, control, and sovereignty. The eagle head in Mesopotamian murals, such as those representing Ninurta, should not be interpreted literally, but as indicative of a warrior mindset, a force that controls and governs with firmness and strategic vision. Thus, these figures with eagle heads were seen as protectors and leaders, capable of seeing beyond the obvious and making decisions from a broader perspective. This differentiation between the eagle and the serpent reflects an interesting duality between power and wisdom. While the eagle symbolizes dominion and authority over the physical world, the serpent represents spiritual knowledge and the connection to the divine. When combined, these two mindsets form the balance necessary to lead a society. In Mesopotamian mythology, for example, the gods who possessed these combined qualities were often depicted as the guides of civilizations, responsible for bringing order to chaos. The choice to represent these mindsets through animals is also significant. Ancient cultures recognized that animals carry powerful symbolic traits. The eagle, with its ability to fly high and see the world from above, represents an elevated perspective, while the serpent, crawling on the earth, symbolizes the connection to nature's hidden secrets. When these two figures are combined, they form a complete archetype of leadership and wisdom. Therefore, the interpretation of serpent and eagle symbols goes beyond simple iconography. They reveal a sophisticated understanding that, to lead and build enduring civilizations, more than physical or military strength was needed. Spiritual wisdom and a clear vision of the world were also required. Ancient civilizations understood this duality and expressed it symbolically, showing us that true leadership arises from the combination of these two fundamental aspects. The story of the Anunnaki is one of the most intriguing mysteries of antiquity. These beings, described in the cuneiform tablets of ancient Mesopotamia, are often depicted as gods who came from the heavens to teach humans. They are believed to have played a crucial role in the development of the first great civilizations, bringing with them advanced knowledge in agriculture, astronomy, engineering, and even laws. Although the historical accuracy of these accounts is debated, their influence on the collective imagination and the symbolism of ancient cultures is undeniable. The Anunnaki are frequently portrayed in murals and artifacts holding the pine cone and the bag, symbols of knowledge and tools for building civilizations. These gods not only guided humans, but also directly influenced how societies were structured. Mythology tells that they created kings and leaders in their image, instructing them to rule with wisdom and strength. Many scholars believe that this lineage of kings, called the Nephilim, was seen as direct descendants of the Anunnaki, receiving special privileges and access to sacred knowledge. Furthermore, the Anunnaki seem to have been fundamental in social organization. Cuneiform tablets, such as the Code of Hammurabi, reveal that laws and social norms were often dictated or inspired by the gods. This suggests that the Anunnaki were more than just mythological figures. They were seen as legislators and mentors, teaching humans how to structure a civilization. The fact that the laws and teachings associated with them survived for millennia reinforces their importance in forming the first organized societies. One of the most interesting aspects of the Anunnaki is the duality in their representation. While some stories depict them as benevolent and wise, bringing progress and prosperity, other traditions suggest that they were also beings of control and power, imposing their will on humanity. This ambivalence reflects the complexity of gods in Mesopotamian mythology, who were not always exclusively good or evil, but instead represented a mix of influences on human destiny. The influence of the Anunnaki is not limited to Mesopotamia. Parallels can be found in other ancient cultures, such as Egypt and Central America, where we find similar gods who brought knowledge to humans. This suggests that the Anunnaki, or their mythology, may have influenced a wide range of civilizations. The connection between these beings and the rise of advanced civilizations is a question that continues to fascinate scholars and history enthusiasts. In the end, the influence of the Anunnaki is not just an echo from the past, but also a reflection of how ancient cultures viewed divinity and power. They were not just distant, unreachable gods, but figures directly involved in daily life, politics, and the evolution of humanity. They teach us that divine power was seen as something that shaped the course of human history in a tangible way, and their legacy still reverberates in the legends and myths that shape civilization. Throughout human history, the eagle and the serpent emerge as powerful and recurring symbols in various cultures. These two animals, often seen as opposites, carry a symbolic weight that goes beyond the simple animal realm, representing profound concepts of power, spirituality, and transformation. In many mythologies, they are depicted as figures that, in some way, connect man to the divine and to spiritual wisdom, offering a broader vision of the challenges and complexities of human life. The eagle, in particular, has always been associated with power, freedom, and elevated vision. In ancient Rome, the symbol of the eagle was used by emperors to represent their dominion over the empire and the vastness of their conquests. From above, the eagle sees everything, symbolizing sovereign rule that observes and controls all. In Mesopotamia, the eagle also appears in representations of Ninurta, a warrior god associated with military power and the ability to maintain order through strength and authority. On the other hand, the serpent is often associated with wisdom, hidden knowledge, and regeneration. In Egypt, the symbol of the serpent was deeply intertwined with royalty and spiritual power, as seen in the pharaoh's crowns, where the uraeus cobra represented divine protection and spiritual enlightenment. In Mesoamerican mythology, the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, was a symbol of wisdom and the union between heaven and earth, transcending the simple idea of an animal to become an emblem of spiritual ascension. What is interesting is that, although the eagle and serpent may seem like opposite symbols, the former associated with physical power and the latter with spiritual knowledge, they often appear together in ancient mythologies, symbolizing a complementary duality. The famous Aztec image of the eagle holding a serpent, for example, represents the balance between physical strength and spiritual wisdom, a balance essential for effective leadership and the survival of a civilization. This duality of meaning is also reflected in the Bible, where the serpent is associated with temptation and original sin, yet in other passages is seen as a symbol of healing, as in the case of Moses raising the bronze serpent in the desert to heal the people of Israel. This shows us that the symbols of the eagle and the serpent can take on multiple layers of meaning, depending on the context, and their associations with good or evil are not fixed, but changeable, shaped by culture and time. Throughout history, the eagle and the serpent have continued to be used in artistic representations, coats of arms, and national symbols. The eagle is one of the most recognized emblems, present on shields and flags around the world, while the serpent, though less visible, remains a powerful symbol in esoteric and spiritual practices. When studied deeply, these animal figures reveal not only the ancient civilization's views on power and spirituality, but also how these concepts intertwine and balance over the course of human life. In ancient civilizations, knowledge was often restricted to a small elite composed of priests and magicians who held the power to decode and interpret sacred symbols. These individuals were seen as intermediaries between the gods and humans, guardians of deep secrets that shaped the course of civilizations. They were entrusted with the hidden meanings of symbols like the pine cone and the bag, and they played a central role in the preservation and transmission of this knowledge to future generations. These priests and magicians not only served as interpreters of the symbols, but also as advisors to kings and leaders, influencing political and social decisions. In Mesopotamia, for example, priests held significant power, guiding kings in their actions and using sacred symbols as part of rituals and ceremonies aimed at securing the favor of the gods. By controlling this symbolic knowledge, they maintained their spiritual and political authority over the population. This knowledge of symbols was not accessible to everyone. It required rigorous spiritual and intellectual training to become a priest or magician, and only the most prepared were granted the privilege of knowing the true meanings of the symbols. The pine cone, for instance, was much more than a simple ornament. It represented spiritual wisdom and the connection to the divine. Only those who occupied the highest ranks of the priesthood could fully understand its meaning and apply it in the rituals and ceremonies that governed community life. Another important aspect of the role of priests was the preservation of knowledge. In many ancient civilizations, Traditions were passed down orally or recorded on clay or stone tablets, such as the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia. Priests were responsible for ensuring that symbolic knowledge was not lost or misinterpreted. This included maintaining the purity of symbols, preventing their meanings from being corrupted or trivialized over time. As centuries passed, many of these meanings were lost or distorted. As ancient civilizations fell and new empires emerged, the role of priests and magicians changed, and access to sacred knowledge became more restricted or reinterpreted by new cultures. However, vestiges of this knowledge still exist in ancient texts and symbols that have survived to this day, such as the pine cone in the Vatican, which continues to be an enigma that many seek to decipher. The priests and magicians of these ancient cultures played a fundamental role in preserving a system of knowledge that extended beyond the material world. They understood that symbols were not mere ornaments or decorations, but gateways to a deeper understanding of the nature of existence and the connection between man and the divine. By studying their roles, we can begin to unravel the meanings they kept secret, meanings that still echo today in esoteric and religious traditions. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the world, revealing secrets about the dawn of human civilization. Discovered in 1995, this astronomical temple has radically altered our understanding of ancient societies. Dated to around 11,600 years ago, Göbekli Tepe predates what we traditionally associate with the rise of agriculture and the first cities. The most intriguing aspect is that the site was intentionally buried, raising further questions about its purpose and the nature of its construction. The T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe are impressive, weighing several tons and covered with representations of animals and symbols, including the enigmatic bag. Pillar 43, in particular, is the most famous and displays a variety of figures that intrigue archaeologists and scholars. Among the carved symbols, we see what many believe to be a representation of a comet or asteroid, surrounded by animals such as vultures and scorpions, suggesting that the site may have served as an astronomical observatory to map the skies and significant cosmic events. The symbolism at Göbekli Tepe goes beyond astronomical images. The presence of the carved bags on the stones suggests that this place was much more than a mere religious temple. It may have been a center of knowledge where ancient priests gathered to study the secrets of the cosmos and nature. The fact that this site was deliberately buried indicates that its builders had profound respect for it, perhaps attempting to preserve it for future generations or to protect it from an imminent catastrophe they foresaw through their celestial studies. One of the most intriguing questions about Göbekli Tepe is how it was built. According to traditional archaeological narratives, the societies that lived at that time were composed of nomadic hunter-gatherers. The construction of such a sophisticated and monumental complex, which would have required planning and an organized workforce, contradicts this view. This suggests that these people had more advanced knowledge than we assume, and were on the brink of transitioning to a more sedentary life, marked by the emergence of agriculture and the first permanent villages. The study of Göbekli Tepe also leads us to question how the ancients understood the sky and its relationship with the earth. The precision with which the pillars are aligned with important astronomical events suggests that the inhabitants of Göbekli Tepe had detailed knowledge of the movements of the stars and cosmic cycles. This understanding may have been connected to their religious beliefs, in which the sky and celestial events played a fundamental role in daily life and spiritual practices. Göbekli Tepe is more than an archaeological marvel. It is a gateway to our most distant past, a testament to the fact that even thousands of years ago, humans were already seeking answers about their origin and place in the universe. By unraveling the mysteries of this temple, we can not only learn more about ancient civilizations, but also about ourselves and our own spiritual and intellectual roots. Mesopotamia, known as the cradle of civilization, is one of the richest regions in terms of culture, religion, and symbolism. There, symbols were not merely decorative. They were profound representations of the beliefs, powers, and deities that shaped daily life. Every detail in sculptures and cuneiform texts had a purpose and deep meaning, serving to connect the physical world to the spiritual. Religion was central to Mesopotamian life, and symbolism played an essential role in understanding cosmic and earthly order. One of the primary symbols in Mesopotamia is the pine cone, often seen in the hands of the Anunnaki gods. For the Mesopotamians, this pine cone represented far more than a simple ornament. It symbolized the transmission of wisdom and control over spiritual life. In the hands of the gods, the pine cone was an icon of enlightenment, the key to awakening human consciousness. This is evident in the murals, where divine figures are always depicted in a gesture of offering, as if they were transmitting something grand to humanity. Beyond the pine cone, the symbol of the bag is another fascinating icon that appears in Mesopotamia. In depictions of the Anunnaki, this bag seems to carry secrets and essential tools for the creation and maintenance of civilization. This suggests that the Mesopotamians saw these symbols as both spiritual and material tools, a balance between earthly and celestial power. Mesopotamian religion was therefore intrinsically tied to the concept of divine order, with the gods acting as master architects who shaped human reality. The duality between power and wisdom, reflected in the symbols of the eagle and the serpent, also played a crucial role in Mesopotamian religion. Ninurta, the god of war, is frequently depicted with an eagle's head, symbolizing military power and authority. However, serpent symbols, seen in various deities, referred to hidden knowledge and spiritual wisdom, revealing a belief that true power came from the balance between physical strength and inner wisdom. This was echoed in Mesopotamian religious practices, where both war and spirituality were celebrated as paths to ascension. Another important symbol in Mesopotamian religion was the Tree of Life, often depicted alongside gods and kings. It symbolized creation, balance, and eternity, closely connected to the idea that the gods were responsible for maintaining the harmony of the cosmos. The Tree of Life also represented the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, reflecting Mesopotamian beliefs about the immortality of the soul and the central role of the gods in maintaining universal order. Finally, it's essential to understand that religion and symbolism in Mesopotamia were not seen as separate entities. They were part of a complex network of beliefs that guided the political, social, and spiritual life of the people. Each symbol carried a message, and the priests, as the holders of this knowledge, were responsible for transmitting and interpreting these messages to the public. Understanding these symbols is key to deciphering the complex and fascinating religious universe of Mesopotamia, where the divine and human realms intertwined in a cosmic dance. The history of ancient civilizations is filled with references to global catastrophes that shaped the fate of humanity. Many myths and legends speak of great floods, meteor impacts, and cosmic events that wiped out entire cultures. However, when we analyze these accounts in light of the symbols left behind, we begin to see that these events were not just viewed as natural disasters, but as part of a larger cosmic cycle that deeply connected heaven and earth. One of the cultures that most emphasized the relationship between the sky and earth was Mesopotamian. Its deities and myths were deeply connected to cosmic events, and many of its temples, like the famous ziggurat, were built as celestial observatories. They believed that the gods communicated through celestial bodies, and events in the sky, such as eclipses, planetary alignments, and meteors, were signs of impending changes or even catastrophes. The role of the priests was to interpret these signs and prepare the civilization for the events to come. Göbekli Tepe is a fascinating example of how an ancient civilization might have been aware of these cosmic influences. The structure itself, with its pillars aligned to astronomical events, suggests that its inhabitants were deeply concerned with the sky and what it could tell them. One of the most enigmatic symbols carved into Göbekli Tepe is the representation of a comet, which many believe is connected to a catastrophic event that may have changed Earth's history. This type of representation suggests that these civilizations were not only recording cosmic events, but also trying to predict cycles of destruction and rebirth. The theory that Earth undergoes cycles of catastrophe every 12,000 years is widely discussed among alternative scholars. These cycles are marked by great cataclysms, such as floods and earthquakes, that reshape the planet's map and destroy entire civilizations. Many believe that the symbols left by ancient cultures, such as the bags and pine cones, were connected to this knowledge. They may have been used to record these catastrophes or to prepare future generations for the events that would inevitably occur. Another example of this kind of symbolism can be found in the pyramids of Egypt, which, according to some theories, were aligned with the stars to record not only time, but also major cosmic events. Many believe that the pyramids may have been constructed as a way to protect knowledge about these cosmic cycles and catastrophes. The Egyptians, like the Mesopotamians, had a deep understanding of the relationship between the sky and earth, and they used this wisdom to guide their societies and possibly predict disasters. Thus, cosmic influences and global catastrophes were not just baseless myths or legends. They were part of a larger cycle that ancient civilizations seemed to understand and attempt to record symbolically. These events, though devastating, were seen as part of the universal balance, where destruction and creation walked hand in hand. By studying these symbols and their connections to the cosmos, we can begin to understand how these ancient cultures viewed the world and how they tried to predict and protect themselves from the cataclysms they knew would come. As already mentioned, the pine cone is a deeply rooted symbol in various cultures around the world, but its connection to the pineal gland and the third eye adds another layer of meaning. In spiritual tradition, the pineal gland, located in the center of the human brain, is often associated with the ability to perceive beyond the physical, connecting the individual to the divine. This gland, curiously shaped like a pine cone, is seen as the center of intuition, enlightenment, and spiritual consciousness. In Hinduism, this concept is clearly represented in the Ajna chakra, also known as the third eye. This chakra, located on the forehead, is the center of spiritual perception and wisdom. Activating this chakra allows an individual to see beyond the limitations of material reality, opening the mind to a deeper understanding of the universe and themselves. It is this ability to see beyond that the pine cone symbolizes in various cultures, serving as an emblem of spiritual enlightenment. The ancient Egyptians also associated the pine cone with elevated spiritual concepts. They believed that the awakening of spiritual consciousness was linked to the activation of the pineal gland, represented in many of their religious symbols. In Egyptian esoteric tradition, the pine cone is often associated with the Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection, healing, and wisdom. The Eye of Horus, like the third eye in Hinduism, represented the ability to see beyond the physical and access divine knowledge. This connection between the pine cone and the third eye is not just a spiritual theory. Today, many scholars and scientists are beginning to investigate the role of the pineal gland in the human brain and how it may influence elevated states of consciousness. The pineal gland is responsible for producing melatonin, a hormone that regulates sleep-wake cycles, but it is also involved in altered perception experiences, such as lucid dreams and deep meditation. This reinforces the idea that the pine cone, both in the body and as a symbol, is directly connected to our ability to access deeper levels of consciousness. The Vatican, in turn, reinforces this connection by displaying a massive pine cone sculpture in its central square. Additionally, the pine cone carved into the Pope's staff is a powerful symbol, suggesting a connection between spiritual wisdom and the Church's earthly control. This leads us to question how deeply religious institutions understand esoteric symbols and how they use this knowledge in spiritual and political organization. The relationship between the pine cone, the pineal gland, and the third eye leads us to reflect on what it means to achieve spiritual enlightenment. For many cultures, activating this inner eye is the pinnacle of the spiritual journey, allowing an individual to understand their true nature and their place in the cosmos. By observing the symbolism of the pine cone, both in ancient texts and modern representations, we can see that this concept of enlightenment transcends cultural and religious boundaries, pointing to a universal truth about the awakening of consciousness. The idea that ancient civilizations received external influences is a theory that has gained traction over the years, especially among alternative scholars. This hypothesis suggests that civilizations such as the Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Olmec may have been guided or directly influenced by beings with advanced knowledge, whether extraterrestrial or divine. The symbols of the pine cone and the bag, often found in representations of these cultures, may be clues to this connection, representing the knowledge passed on by these entities. The hypothesis of the Anunnaki, gods who came from the skies to share wisdom with humanity, is one of the main examples of this theory. According to ancient texts, these beings not only taught humans about agriculture, astronomy, and engineering, but also guided the development of the first great civilizations. The symbolism of the pine cone, often associated with them, suggests that spiritual and scientific knowledge was something they controlled and selectively transmitted to humanity, giving rise to highly organized and sophisticated societies. Beyond Mesopotamia, the presence of external influences can be seen in other cultures, such as Egypt. The pyramids and other Egyptian monuments, built with precision and aligned with celestial bodies, suggest an advanced level of astronomical knowledge. Many theories suggest that the Egyptians may have been guided by beings with a superior understanding of the cosmos, who helped them build these monuments as part of a larger plan to map cosmic cycles and catastrophes. In Central America, the Olmecs also present us with enigmatic symbols, such as the giant sculpted heads and depictions of gods holding bags. These symbols are often compared to those found in cultures across the world, like Mesopotamia, suggesting a possible connection between these civilizations. The similarity between these symbols and the apparent lack of a plausible explanation for how these peoples developed such advanced knowledge leads many to believe that they may have received guidance from a common source. Another important point of this theory is the presence of hybrid figures in various ancient cultures, such as humans with animal or serpent heads. These representations, although often interpreted as mere mythological figures, may be evidence that these peoples believed their gods or influencers were not entirely human, but possessed divine or extraterrestrial characteristics. This reinforces the idea that ancient civilizations believed their wisdom came from an external source, one that was beyond ordinary human understanding. In the end, the rise of these civilizations under external influence is not just a matter of advanced technology or architecture. It is also a spiritual matter, where the knowledge transmitted by these beings shaped not only the material infrastructure, but also the beliefs and power systems of these cultures. By analyzing the symbolism of the pine cone in the bag, we can see that these cultures believed they were in contact with something greater, a force or intelligence that guided them beyond what they could have achieved alone.